Hello and welcome to AFI's first edition of the Cover 7 podcast covering American football worldwide. I'm Alex Malchow. This is Daniel Mackenzie. And today we're going to be focusing on the European League of Football Championship going down this Sunday, September 25th in Klagenfurt, Austria. We have two great teams that have battled it out this season and see themselves in the championship game. How are you feeling about Sunday's matchup overall, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great game. I think the league has built significantly from last year. Two great teams, two very different teams, but great teams. I think it's going to be a great game, and I can't wait for it.
So, Vienna, the Vienna Vikings, are making the short trip from, I guess, northern Austria, kind of to the south in Klagenfurt, to play the Hamburg Sea Devils. Why can Vienna be a title chance? What makes their team special?
I think they're one of the most diverse teams in the league. They can do pretty much everything. They have a great defense, they have a great secondary, front seven. Their running game is extremely underrated. Jackson Urban's been playing well all year. He's got good receivers who can do a lot with the ball in their hands. Their yak game is wild. I just think they're a very diverse team, and I think whatever Hamburg throws at them, they will be able to counter with their own style of football. So yeah, I think they've got a great chance of becoming champions. And it's in Vienna as well, you know. I mean, home advantage, basically. You're a home team, even though it's maybe not the team you're used to playing in, but a lot of the fans there are going to be Austrian.
Yeah, I imagine the Austrian pride will be felt at Klagenfurt, absolutely. But of course, we have the sort of quote-unquote visitors in this one, Hamburg Sea Devils, who are also coming off a pretty impressive season and an impressive playoff win as well. Sea Devils have a little bit of a different style of a team. What makes them a title contender?
Another great team, obviously. I genuinely think the two best teams are in the final this year. I don't think anyone snuck in. But what makes Hamburg great is Glenn Tonga. I mean, it's pretty much that. And their defense is amazing, obviously. They've got an amazing pass rush. And their secondary is just beastly. And Glenn Tonga has just been arguably one of the best players in the league this year. He has destroyed defenses time and time again. They are a bit one-dimensional, but that one dimension seems to be beating teams, you know. Their passing game has struggled at times. But yeah, I think what they do best, they do better than everyone else. So I think they stand a great chance. But second time in the championship, so it's not going to be too big for them, you know. Whereas Vienna, it could be a bit of stage fright going on, but we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. So we talked a little bit about the matchups. What are some matchups you're looking for? For example, one matchup I'm looking at is we have sort of Mr. Austria and Thomas Schnurrer, one of the top linebackers in Austria, came to the Vikings this year, has been balling out in the ELF, and he'll have his hands full trying to tackle Glenn Tonga.
100%. I've been watching Thomas for the last couple of years now, when he was in Graz Giants before, and he's just awesome. He's such a good player. He's so hungry for it. Nose for the ball, runs around sideline to sideline, can do absolutely everything, but he's still an unsung hero on that team. So I don't necessarily think that Hamburg are going to be scheming against him because he's not a huge name, and so maybe that opens him up to make some bigger plays. But yeah, so Tonga and Schooner, two Europeans, or I think that's really like symbolic of Elf in itself. You know, I think that's a great matchup between two Europeans in the European League of Football, kind of battling out, and the game potentially will be won or lost between Thomas Schnurrer and Glenn Tonga, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right for sure, but also have to look in the trenches. I mean, the Vikings have this defensive end named Blake Nelson. That's right, that's his last name. And he's been injured a bit this season, but when he's played, he has played extremely well. We saw that last week, making big impact as they really dominated the Barcelona Dragons at home. He'll be up against a physical offensive line in Hamburg, and I think the trenches we got to watch who comes out as a winner there. Another matchup I'm looking forward to is on the other side, Mr. NFL, full machine, 6-year vet, Boston College All-American Kasim Edebali. I think the old man showed what he had left in the tank here in the playoffs. He's played in the NFL for a reason, and he dominated last week. What did you think of his performance?
Yeah, great. And I think his intensity really represents Hamburg's kind of ethos, I guess, as a team, and that is just an intense team. all phases of the game. They are an extremely intense team. They're going to go after it, be super physical, going to bang you about. And I think that's going to be a shock for Vienna in the final, maybe, because Hamburg are coming to play, second final. They want to win it this time. But yeah, it was a great performance last week.
Yeah, this is what makes me nervous about picking Vienna, is because this will be the most athletic defense that they've faced all season, is how I see it. I mean, there's guys in the secondary that can fly around, and that front seven is physical.
Yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree. I think it will be a struggle. But what I also think is that the Vienna's front seven is underrated. If you look at last week, they played the best offense in the league, right, in Barcelona Dragons. Zach Edwards, the best quarterback in the league. I think in the first half he threw for like less than 50 yards. It was insane. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He really struggled last week, and that was all because of the pressure that was in his face all day from Vienna. And so I think Vienna's front seven is extremely underrated. And I think if they can get in the backfield and just start forcing Hamburg to throw the ball, then it's going to be a tough day.
Absolutely. Is there any other players, like X factors, you're sort of looking forward to? I mean, we know Vienna likes to spread the ball around. Hamburg has been pretty, the same as far as an offensive approach. Who are you looking forward to maybe come out and surprise some people on Sunday?
The Wigan brothers, Anton and Florian Wigan. Again, watched them last year. Both bowling balls, both low centre of gravity, run over players all the time. We saw it all season long. They've got. I think Anton Wigan is currently leading the league in yards per carry. Right.
Wow.
He's averaging like 7 yards per carry. I think my numbers could be wrong there, but it's something around that. It's crazy how productive their running game has been. And again, they've been kind of there's been forgotten on the Vienna team because of the success they've had elsewhere on the field. So I think those guys are going to play huge impacts on Sunday.
You're right, by the way, we just checked it. 6.3 yards a carry is no joke, man. And a 97-yard long. Love to see that. 0 fumbles as well. Pretty impressive for the Austrians.
There's two of them. You know what I mean? There's two of them. There's one of them running at you. There's two of them. One gets tired, the other one comes in. Anton, I'd say, is probably the better pass catcher out the backfield. Who can do a bit more. Florian's more of the kind of run through someone's face kind of player.
Absolutely. Who's your winner? I mean, this is a pretty tough pick for any expert. I think it's going to be a close game. Who do you think's hoisting the trophy?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Hamburg on this one, just because what they do so well. And I don't know if Vienna can match the intensity of Hamburg. I think it'll be a close game because, like I said before, Vienna are they're very diverse team. They've got a lot of things they can throw at you, and so they will change on the fly. They will change their approach on the fly, and which may cause Hamburg some problems. But I just feel like Hamburg's too intense of a team. They've been there before, and I think they won it, to be honest.
Personally, I'm going Vienna. I think it's going to be a hard trip for Hamburg to go all the way down to Klagenfurt. Vienna is going to be backing the Vikings hard. Stadium's going to be rocking, a lot of purple. And I just think 2 weeks of preparing for Glenn Tonga was going to slow him down. Because I think we should touch on this next. The quarterback play has been really up and down for Hamburg. Salou Cisse, obviously, part of that is the offense play calling. Part of that is his ability or inability to move the ball through the air. And so for that reason, I'll pick Vienna. Yeah,
and I think you saw that in earlier games when Hamburg went down to the wire with Istanbul Rams in the first game. And Istanbul Rams, like Zachary Blair, one of the best tacklers in the league, right? A downhill linebacker, makes 1 million tackles per game, and he's in your face all day. And Glenn Tonga really struggled, or the Hamburg offense rather, really struggled against them the second time round. And when they were forced to throw the ball, it wasn't that successful, We've seen the two German quarterbacks struggle, like you said. So, we'll see what happens in the final. But I don't see the Hamburg coaching staff put the ball on the shoulders of the QB. I can't see them doing that. They'll go down fighting with Glenn as opposed to putting it on Cisse or Mac.
Maybe an underrated part of this game then is how Hamburg starts. Because obviously if you get in a hole, it's going to be hard for a team like the Sea Devils to come back because of that lack of, a passing offense. So Hamburg needs to come out firing. I think that'll be something to watch in the first quarter.
Yeah, right now. I think we need to talk about special teams as well. Special teams obviously play a big impact. Both have got good special teams units. Both got good return units. Lamar Jordan and Xavier Edwards, both weapons in the return game. So yeah, whoever wins that battle is going to probably win the game, to be honest.
Absolutely. Well, we're all looking forward to the game. One thing we're also looking forward to is there's been rumors of a halftime announcement, which obviously last year we saw in the championship. League Commissioner Patrick Azume announced the Dusseldorf Rhine in Dusseldorf, a new expansion team in the ever-expanding ELF. I think we see potentially another expansion drop at halftime. Daniel, what are your thoughts?
Without doubt, there will 100% be a drop. It's the biggest show, and Azume is a showman.
Absolutely.
His showmanship is out of this world, and he's gonna present something to fans. What that is, we don't know. Most likely, more teams. And there's been rumours of various locations: London, Paris, Prague, Amsterdam, Stockholm. And these are all great locations for a team. And I think places like London and Paris are really key because the population size there is so big, such a densely populated area. And so the talent you can get in is always going to be better. You know what I mean? If you go to a city with 100,000 people compared to 10 million people, there's going to be a huge difference in the talent that you draw in, especially from support from local business and so on. So yeah, I think any of those could be definitely a potential location for a team on that road to reach 24 teams, which Azume and Jelko have made clear numerous times that they want to reach. So yeah, obviously with the addition of Milan as well, which is a great one, Switzerland, the Hungarian team, Throners.
That's right.
So yeah, excited, and it could be any one of those teams, but yeah. And in a kind of bid to maybe relive some of NFL Europe, it could be Amsterdam as well, with the Admirals. Yeah, we'll see what happens, but there's definitely an announcement, and I can't wait for it.
Yeah, I think it would be cool for ELF to get into Scandinavia with a team like Stockholm or Helsinki. However, population size and popularity of the sport are definitely factors. You would think if you're Izume, you would do everything you could to get into London. I mean, it's the European League of Football. London is one of the premier cities in Europe, to say the least. The NFL has obviously shown its biggest international interest in London, even more so than places like Mexico, where football already has a rich stronghold on the culture. I think we see London announced on Sunday.
I think that's a great guess, and I think like financially, it just makes sense, right? It just makes sense. There's so much disposable income, and maybe that's why Mexico was previously ignored, because disposable income isn't.
Sure.
There isn't as much disposable income in Mexico as there is in places like London, more like affluent parts of the world, like Western Europe, where you can go to games and spend X amount of money on a ticket, and you can buy the fan gear and whatever. And that's obviously what ELF is. It's more than just being a good league. It's a business. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
And they're trying to make money, and you have to be in London if you want to make money. It's the financial capital of Europe. So yeah.
Yeah, and you see a rich sports culture in London with soccer, football, rugby. I mean, and obviously with the NFL. Now 2 games a year are coming to London for a reason, because it's sold out every time. The city goes crazy. There's NFL events the entire week. And people are tuning in television-wise, which obviously any sports league, that television deal. We see it now with college football, the big deals the conferences are making. You got to have a great TV deal if you want to make money as a league.
Without a doubt. So yeah, I'd love to see London team, being a London native as well. I'd absolutely love it. Be awesome.
Speaking of expansion, I think we're ready to move on to the leaked, I guess. Was it leaked? I don't know. It was on Twitter. The Barcelona shareholder presentation. Now, this came out. We'll go ahead and share our screen here so that our audience can see it. Okay, so here we have the Barcelona shareholder presentation, which essentially, is my understanding, is pitching for investors to invest in the Dragons organization. I'm sure there's multiple investors to every club, But it was interesting to see the inside sort of pitch that the ELF and especially the Dragons are taking here.
Without a doubt. And I think it also, there's whatever you want to say about the presentation and the holes in it, and maybe just the lack of information in it, that it is a great direction for European football to go into. I cannot see any other European team putting this level of effort into investment, right?
Sure.
Like, me and Alex have both played in Europe, and we both know, that teams, when they get investment, it's usually locally, right? This is looking for external, international support, right? From maybe even America and so on. So I think it's a great direction to go in for the sport. But this presentation, in my opinion, needs a bit of work, just because it doesn't. The numbers don't add up in my head, and there's a lot of kind of over optimism on audiences in Europe. I think in the UK here on this slide, it's saying 13 million fans. Interested in whatever you want to say, the sport that might be. I don't know if that's accurate. There's there's a fan base of 13 million for European League of Football.
No, I don't think for European League of Football at this point, 13 million is realistic. I think what this pitch is trying to get at is the growth of the NFL internationally and how the ELF could piggyback that and turn it themselves into a profitable league. And we've seen TV contracts blow up. Obviously, London has had success. Sky Sports is now investing more in the NFL.
Huge.
We see Germany with ProSieben and who, correct me if I'm wrong, folks, I believe they just lost the contract to another German company. But maybe I double check that. Anyway, it was an interesting presentation here going through the structure of the league, what the league wants to become. You see a heavy influence on the NFL, which would be hard not to take advantage of.
Yeah, and I think this title here, more than NFL Europe 2.0, is, again, pretty optimistic. I think NFL Europe had literally produced Hall of Famers, right? D'Angelo Hall, Jake Delhomme, James Harrison. These are household names in the NFL. I don't know if ELF currently has that level of talent. So to say that it's NFL, and they played in huge stadiums with, so I don't know if it has that level of talent. Obviously, NFL Europe went bankrupt, right?
Right.
So there was holes in the business plan there. However, I don't know if this is more than NFL Europe 2.0. It might be more sustainable on a smaller scale, but to suggest that it's bigger. But obviously, this is a pitch. Do you know what I mean? Right. You're trying to blow things up behind you, so it's fair enough.
More is relative here.
Yeah.
It's not NFL Europe because it's not in the same stadiums.
No.
It's not on television in the same way, is my understanding. And obviously, it's mostly European players.
Yeah.
NFL Europe was mostly Americans, so quite different there. But maybe, hopefully, more sustainable. Here we see maybe a leak here. Paris, potentially. I haven't heard anything there. Maybe we'll hear about that later. We see all the teams, especially the new teams with Milan, Zurich, the Budapest-based team. Forgive me, I'm not going to try to pronounce that. I think that's... And the teams we saw last season, obviously. Let's get into these TV numbers. I think this is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
We see the net reach, the market share all increased. It's cool to see the age group, the demographics that the ELF is getting after. And we've seen the success that they've had, especially on TV in RAN and in Germany. I think this league can be really successful in Germany because of the TV contracts that they've had and the TV success they've had. Hungarian television provider. Why would you show the Enthroners games?
Yeah, and I think this is where the pitch kind of falls down. And I think maybe they're getting lost in their own name, i.e. the European League of Football. Europe is not culturally monolithic. It's not one thing, right? Across Europe, there are varying levels of interest in the sport. Germany, Austria, they kill for it. Like, me and you have both played in Germany and Austria. Like, they are so committed. You see the grassroots programs; they're amazing. They have big turnouts to the games, and so this was the next logical step, and that's why the base of ELF is in Germany. However, in Spain and in Hungary, you're not going to have the same level of interest in the sport. It's just a fact. I'm sorry to say, you're not going to have the same level of interest. And I think Germany against Ryan Fire and Frankfurt Galaxy towards the end of the season, they had 6 to 7% of market share on television at one. Something like that. That number roughly, and that is amazing for the sport. That's so good, and we love to see it. However, that's not going to be the same in every country you play in. It won't be the same in Poland. It won't be the same in Barcelona. It won't be the same, and so on. And so, I think them using league-wide numbers is a bit deceptive, if I'm honest. Do you know what I mean? It's not representative of domestic interest in the sport.
I think this pitch is a little bit like invest in the ELF more than invest in the Dragons a bit.
Definitely.
But fair enough. It's part of the Dragons, right?
Yeah, and it is profit sharing, right? Isn't it? I think the league's profit share anyway, so...
Well, if it's the NFL model, it is.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is for sure, but right. I know the NFL is profit sharing. But also, just while you were talking, I thought of this. You don't need a TV channel, really. You could get a live streaming service. You don't necessarily need to put it on regular television. You could put it on, we see the NFL moving to Amazon Prime and different streaming services. There's no reason why the ELF can't do that, and they sort of already are with the Game Pass.
Yeah, I think the thing that you need to do, though, is just basically find a household name, and I think that's why the TV services do work better, because you know the provider, right? You see a lot of European football in the league at the moment, in various European leagues. It's a different provider than the streams, and so finding the stream can sometimes be a roadblock in itself. Whereas if you know where it is Thursday Night Football, you know that Amazon has that slot. Everyone's going to Amazon because you know it's a household name and so on. And so I think that's why Elf are kind of trying to move towards those more mainstream channels because they are more family friendly, which I think is a good choice. And you're going to get a marketing as well. You know what I mean? Like if you're trying to pitch your league to like marketing companies or whatever, you're going to have far more success saying that we're on RAN TV or on Amazon Prime. Whereas if I tell you that I'm on this really like bespoke streaming service online that I made in my garage, do you know what I mean?
I hear you.
It's a bit like I don't know if I want to invest in that.
Right. You don't want to be on Twitch, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess the idea would be you take the people that are tuning into television for the NFL and get them to watch ELF. So you would do that through the same television provider that is providing the NFL.
Yeah.
Which we saw that success in Germany.
Yeah.
Hand in hand.
Yeah, and you've seen that like in the past, Elf trying to cozy up to the NFL, do you know what I mean? Yeah. They are trying to get close to the NFL in any way they can and say, hey, look, here I am, please pay attention to me. Which is fair enough. I would do the same thing. Yeah. I would do the same thing. Like that's where the money is in the sport, do you know what I mean? And like obviously like if the NFL say, hey, look, we're going to buy Elf for X amount of millions or billions or whatever, right? That's what they want. I'm sure that's what they want. And they'll be like, yeah, of course, go on, give me your money. But yeah, and you've seen it in like the IPP stuff last year, NFL International Profit Program last year, where it was all over the social media, do you know what I mean? They were saying, hey, look, we've got guys in IPP, in the NFL, we're the same thing, and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the social media side, we don't need to spend too much time on it because if you're watching this, you know how big the ELF social media is. It's amazing. Great story today, came out on the 19th about Maxi Zimmer, the ELF's social media manager on our site. Shout out to our young colleague, Carter Anderson. Great story there. Yeah. But anyway, we know how cool the ELF has framed itself with social media. It's done an amazing job, and that's just going to pull more young fans in, which is who they're going for, 18 to 39-year-olds.
Yeah, they've done a great job there. They really propelled the league, and I don't think the league would have had half the success that it had if it wasn't for those social media guys and the strategy that they had. And I'm sure Azuma and Jelka pushed that strategy as well. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. You can see they invested heavily in it, and so far you've got to give them credit. It looks like it's paid off.
100%.
Yeah, so let's move on. We're just looking at the faces of the Barcelona Dragons here. Of course, Bart Carino, long history of developing this sport in Spain. Got to give him credit for everything he's done in that country. It looks like they have a NFL commentator, former basketball player, Ruben Bias. And I'm assuming this means the re-signing of potential MVP, Zach Edwards.
Yeah, you'd be silly not to re-sign Zach. You know, I think like his entire European career has been in Europe. He came over to a Division 2 Spanish team after COVID, Bart pulled him from that team like midway through the season. I think it was Bart's team as well, actually. He pulled him from that team and said, hey, play for the off team instead.
Maybe former team. Anyway.
Maybe former team. Anyway, yeah, he came from there and he seems to have just... I had a sit down with Zach a few weeks ago and he loves Spain. He loves playing there. He was the league's leading passer this year. And there's no reason to say he won't do it again if they can bring him and Carl Sweet back. So, yeah, it makes sense that he's the face of the franchise.
Yeah, and he made Barcelona an exciting team to watch, which I think is an underrated factor. Obviously 2021 they won 3 or 4 games. Now they were in the semifinals. Huge turnaround. Got to give him a lot of credit there. One of your top 5 MVP candidates, with a great article you wrote earlier this week. Here we have, this is interesting, a vision for the future for the Dragons. Looks like they want to build sort of a football campus with a gym and indoor facilities, meeting rooms, etc., even a food court. This would be an elite level of American football, something that we might see only in Austria, really, with the Vikings or Raiders. So I hope this happens just for the sport in Spain, and they'll need some investment for this to grow.
Yeah, you can say that again. There needs some huge investment. Like we've seen how much these facilities cost in the States, even on a lower level like Division 2 and so on. You need absolutely enormous investors with very, very deep pockets. But there's no reason the Barcelona Dragons can't aim for this. There's no reason they shouldn't aim for this. I think it's a great thing to see. But yeah, I mean, only a few teams in Europe managed to do it. So good luck to them, and I hope it happens.
Absolutely. So here's the juicy bit. Barcelona Dragons shareholder. If you want to buy one share in the Barcelona Dragons, pony up €200 to get, whatever it is, 0.1%. Grieve Packers strategy, as I see it. So this will be partially publicly owned then, which is cool to see. Let's take a look at some of the benefits. Obviously, 1 to 4 shares, 200 to 800 euros. You get a certificate. The certificate is pretty much unilateral here across all pricing categories. Looks like there's some sort of Tribune pass, signed game jersey if you want to really put in big money, and more Tribune season pass, which I'm assuming is maybe a box or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure there's some game day benefits for that.
Yeah, and when I first saw this slide, I don't know too much about kind of like being a shareholder in a company, but for me, this left me with way more questions than answers. Right? This basically says, "Give me your money," but it doesn't say why. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what am I getting for my money? I don't understand. Like, if I'm going to give you 10,000 euros, what do I get for it apart from a signed game jersey and a certificate?
My understanding is that it's sort of like a stock, like as the team becomes more valuable, your share becomes more valuable.
Yeah.
But to be honest, this doesn't really explain that in depth. Maybe they don't have to. Maybe this is going to as a sort of a second part of a pitch or something.
Yeah, or maybe it's just the slides that go along with the presentation, like a verbal presentation.
Maybe.
Do you know what I mean? If I sit in front of investors, I'm saying, hey, look, and then I tell them what they get. I don't know. Maybe.
So speaking of growth and value of the Barcelona Dragons, they have some interesting projections, and what we found more interesting was the financials for the last 2 years are pretty interesting to dive into. Let's take a look at 2021. So we have an income of around 330,000 euros, floating costs of just over 100, plus this gross margin. Basically, they were a little over 92,000 euros in the red in 2021, which, to be honest, obviously 92,000 euros is a lot of money. But for its first year of operation, I would say that's actually pretty good numbers. What do you think, Daniel?
Yeah, and I think anyone that was kind of around the league in the last couple of years, the rumours circulating about teams being in the red or being in debt and losing money in this were kind of rampant. Everyone was talking about this. Yeah. People saying Vienna are 200k in the red before the season even started. Do you know what I mean? I cannot confirm. I don't know if that's true or not. Right. But so yeah, this kind of backs that up a little bit. But like any investment, I guess you have to start like in the red, I guess, to then get into the green, maybe. Do you know what I mean? It's just like you have to lose money to make money, all those kind of like financial cliches. So yeah, I guess it makes sense. But what I found a bit more interesting was the profit margins going forward. They did seem to jump quite significantly, like 63,000 to 250,000.
Oh yeah, from 23 to 24 here.
Yeah,
Yep.
it does seem
with it.
quite drastic. And is this? I don't know. Yeah, and it just seems like okay. It'd be good if there was like a bit more on the income and the floating cost. Like, where does the money actually go? And why is it going up and down in 25, 26, 24? Like, I don't know. Yeah, it just seems like some numbers and doesn't actually.
Well, we see a big drop here in a big jump here in floating costs from 24 to 25. That could be, they mentioned, we'll zoom out here, the Dragons mentioned a move to this stadium, RC de Espanyol, which is the third largest stadium in Catalonia and holds about 40,000 fans. So that would obviously be a large jump from where they're playing now.
Yeah, and that'd be significant. Obviously, when you look at the success of Rhine Fire financially, it's been well documented that they've had the largest attendance at their games throughout the season and have therefore made money from ticket sales. From my understanding as well, that is one part of the league that isn't profit sharing, the ticket sales.
Oh, okay.
I believe. I could be wrong, that's what I've heard. So that's why Rhine Fire are making some money there. And Barcelona Dragons had the smallest stadium, without a shadow of a doubt, this year, right? And so going from like literally like 5,000 people to like 40,000 people, if you can fill the stadiums out, is huge. However, I don't know if that means that you like kind of like quadruple your income. You know, I'm not sure.
Right.
I don't know.
So here, this is, I'd imagine this number here, which is the fixed and facility expenses, would be the stadium. So we see it's climbing, it's climbing, it's climbing. More stuff is going into the game day. But this jump here from 650,000 to 1.3 million, 1.3 million, would have been renting out the stadium 6 times, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But with that, I mean, we do see gross revenue, income coming up here. One encouraging thing, going back to sort of reality here from the projections, is 21 to 22. Now, this is the real numbers. This is not projection. They doubled their income, which I think is really encouraging for the league.
Yeah, without a doubt. And if we're talking about the positives, I think that is Elf in a nutshell, right? It's lots of overreaching and kind of hyping up, but they do deliver at the same time. Do you know what I mean? Maybe they don't reach their very lofty goals, but they do reach something quite significant in Europe.
Absolutely.
And so maybe that's just Elf, which is not a bad thing at all.
But this number is really encouraging to me, that the income has doubled. With that, instead of sort of taking their money, you've seen they've reinvested it as their expenses grew, as their floating costs grew. That shows me that the Dragons are in this for the long haul, because they could have taken a profit here this year if they wanted to and kept the same expenses. But they said, no, this is a long-term project. And because of that, they were in the red again. But again, so 60 grand, yes, a lot of money. But if this is going to be a long-term thing and they have real backing, to people who are really backing this with a lot of money, 60 grand is not going to stress them out for 1 year. I believe that was pretty much it. Liberado de Cambio. Love to see that. Live free, die young.
Oh!
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. Daniel, any last thoughts before we head into this ELF championship and, I guess, another off-season of the ELF?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting time. I think ELF produced a lot of exciting kind of drama in Europe. I've always said that I feel like European drama is more interesting than the European League of Football. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait for the halftime announcements. I can't wait for the off-season of going on, and I think the final in itself is going to be an awesome game that I can't wait for.
Awesome. Well, guys, make sure to tune into our next episode. Read all of Daniel's great articles on the ELF championship coming up, and thanks for listening.